Topic of news this hour, all eyes remain on the Montgomery County Courthouse, where earlier today, Real Housewives of Potomac star Karen Huger learned her fate. Joining us now, our very own Bob Barnard outside of the courthouse with the latest. Hey, Bob, what's going on?
Hey there, Guy. Things are quieting down a little bit here. We definitely had some fans of the show who were here, Real Housewives of Potomac, and we just heard now from the attorney for Karen Huger. He said that she is accepting this one-year jail sentence with peace, that she's had time to reflect on this. It seemed startling to almost everybody in the courtroom when the judge said, look, I know the state said sentence her to 2 years, at least it was the recommendation of the state, to sentence Karen Huger to 2 years in prison, suspending all but 6 months, so meaning 6 months in jail. The judge said no, 1 year in jail, and that when she gets out a year from now, she cannot drive her car for another year, drive any car for another year after that. And she was to be handed over to the custody of the Department of Corrections right away, leaving the courtroom and going right to jail. She did speak before the sentencing and said that she thanks God that nobody was hurt last March 19th, just before midnight, out on Oak Lawn Lane in Potomac when she had this single car accident, and admits that she has an issue mixing alcohol with prescription drugs for depression and anxiety, but that she has been going to AA meetings and plans to attend AA meetings for the rest of her life. The judge, when he handed down the sentence, said, you still seem to think it's a problem mixing alcohol with your medications, not that you have a drinking problem. And he said, look, in the last 17, 18 years, this is your 4th time you've been charged, at least initially, convicted by a jury, in this case in December, of driving under the influence, and you still don't get it, even though you'd been in treatment, outpatient, inpatient, went for 31 days to West Palm Beach earlier this year after she was convicted by a jury of this DUI charge, but that you still don't take this seriously. So the judge said you're going to jail and threw on these other restrictions, no driving for a year afterward. Even the folks who are fans of the show who've been watching this tell us they think it's a good sentence. They were just surprised that she got a year in jail.
Bob, do we know at what point she will actually be taken to the facility? Is it immediately, or will she have some time to actually prepare to go?
No, and you often wonder, and that varies. Often they'll say, okay, report back here in a month or 60 days. She was told she has like a 30 days or a year to appeal this sentence, but she's going right away. I mean, I had a chance to speak to John McCarthy, state's attorney for Montgomery County. It was one of his assistants who prosecuted this case and made the argument for 6 months in jail to the judge, Terrence McCann, here this morning. But McCarthy told me she's going right away to jail. So if she's not on her way, she may be being processed here at the courthouse, but will be on her way. We're told, handed over to the state of Maryland, but will serve her time more than likely, it appears, at the jail here in Montgomery County for a full year.
Bob, we know that this story is filled with plenty of drama, and when it comes to drama, perhaps no one loves it more than the Real Housewives of Potomac cast, if you will, along with the production crew. Do we know, for drama reasons, if she entered through the front door, or did she do so through the back door?
We had both doors covered, Guy, but she apparently came in through a garage, like a basement garage, with her lawyer. So she avoided the cameras going in, and we're not likely to see her going out. There may be like a jail van that'll leave here, but we won't see her. One of the arguments that her attorney, David Martella, made before the sentencing was that, had production on the latest season of Real Housewives of Potomac not been starting at about the time of her accident last March, she would have sought help sooner. That one of the reasons she didn't seek out and get help prior to her conviction in December was because of production of the show, but she avoided the cameras here today. Before the sentencing, she had told the judge that, I can use my platform, the fact that I have a camera lens, to try to advocate against drinking and driving. knowing now how bad it is from her recent re-education about it, but the judge was having none of that. And it was interesting. Some of the show watchers who were here and we spoke to afterward remarked on how the judge kind of read from a prepared statement. So yes, he listened to the arguments that Karen Huger's attorney made, that her plea for leniency, they were looking for home detention or probation, and to the state's argument, which had been spelled out in a document last week. But he kind of read from his what seemed to be prepared statement before he imposed the sentence. And one of the things he said was that, how many times does it take for someone to get caught drinking and driving before a real sentence is handed down? He blasted the guidelines that the judicial system and prosecutors were kind of limited to. And one quote that stuck out to me, he said that at the time of her accident last March 19th, she was filled to the gills with alcohol.
Wow.
So he wasn't buying that it was just the fact that she had mixed a couple of Stella beers with her medications. So pretty interesting goings on here at Circuit Court in Rockville today, Guy.
It's official. Karen Huger now to serve time behind bars. Bob Barnard joining us outside of the Montgomery County Courthouse. Thank you so much, Bob. Truly appreciate you. We'll check back with you later.
You bet.
On the show. Joining us now, Sylvia, our digital content producer. Obviously, this is a breaking story and something we were all expecting to finally get some closure to with regard to the sentencing aspect of it all. Yet again, we now know that she is to serve at least 1 year behind bars at the Maryland or the Montgomery County facility, correctional facility, I should add. It's interesting because so many folks don't necessarily know what goes on with that, with regard to what happens once you arrive at that facility.
Yeah, so arrival at the facility could look like going through a body search of sorts, obviously getting a particular attire to wear once you're there, but also being paired with a facility manager, I believe, or basically a caseworker to some degree, where you can basically be offered different programs and things, because at least for Montgomery County, they do focus on rehabilitation programs for inmates to basically assist with making tough decisions and basically mapping out your time at the facility.
Yeah, gosh, you can only imagine what one will have to go through in order to take part in that. I mean, we know that there will be a body search and or a body scan of some sort.
Right.
You think about the life she has lived thus far and which she will now face on a day-to-day basis. It will be very different than what she used to. Going back to the courtroom, do we know any of our castmates happen to be inside of the courtroom as well?
So from my understanding that the castmates were not at the courtroom actually, and I have been monitoring to see if any castmates have responded or said anything about the verdict. I have not seen anything thus far, but definitely something to keep an eye on, being that this was a big topic throughout the season, even at the reunion, which is still currently being aired and going on right now. A lot of the castmates wishing her the very best, but as Bob Barnard mentioned, the judge was very adamant on saying, this is your 4th offense in the last, I believe, 17 years. Should we wait for your 5th sentence or your 5th conviction to actually, send you to jail? So it'll be really interesting to see what her castmates say and how they support her through this time. But obviously, serious news coming for Karen Huger and her family.
And we know once she actually ends that jail sentence, it doesn't end there, if you will.
Exactly, yes. So she will not be able to drive her car, and after that, potentially a breathalyzer could be placed in her vehicle moving forward. Something that I also thought was interesting that Karen actually said to the judge, I apologize. This is a wake-up call for me. I'm willing to go to AAA meetings for the rest of my life and be an advocate for not drinking and driving, which is really interesting. Also, she presented 3 letters to the officers who were actually on the scene that night, apologizing to them and also thanking them for their service.
Well, hopefully one step forward in the right direction for Ms. Huger, who yet again will now serve time behind bars. Very interesting. Sylvia, our digital content producer, joining us right here on the Live Zone.